Well, it's time now for Media Watch. Emma James is with us in the studio looking at some of the top stories and the reaction online. Good to see you, Emma. We're going to start with the situation in Africa, in Burundi. There have been weeks of violent clashes there between police and anti-government protesters. The president wants to stay on for a third term, something he's not allowed to do as far as the constitution is concerned.
Absolutely. And this growing crisis is getting more and more attention as the protests continue, and it shows no sign of abating. If we take a look at Nigeria's The Guardian newspaper, they say that Pierre Nkurunziza has joined the League of Africa's sit-tight leaders, as they call it. They say that these avoidable constitutional dilemmas, they say, are caused by leaders who can't imagine their country continuing without them. They go on to list all of the African countries where the heads of state have stayed in place for more than 15 years. And at the top of that list is Equatorial Guinea. The president there has the dubious honour of having been in place for 35 years. So really no political change there at all. Now, the human cost of what's going on in Burundi is really there for all to see in this article in Vox magazine. They describe how a man was actually lynched by people who believed that he was from a pro-government youth group who had targeted protesters. They say that he had tyres put around his neck, which were then set on fire. Of course, this is all from witness accounts, so we don't know. We've got no way of verifying the truth of this. But there are many stories like this emerging from Burundi. They talk about the fact that 50,000 people have fled the country, and of course the election is still weeks away. One of the images that sticks out in particular is a gentleman who, a bloodied man in hiding here, being rescued. He was hiding in that hole because there was a mob after him and he feared for his life. Now, in terms of the refugee crisis, the UN Refugee Agency has been tweeting photographs today from Tanzania, where some 10,000 people have turned up looking for a safer place to be living, and clearly they're struggling to actually deal with that influx of people. Now, the UNHCR has also released this account from a 12-year-old who fled Burundi, and it's really very, very strong stuff. They talk about the fact that he was witnessing growing threats, intimidation, murders even, and he and his mother and some of his siblings chose to leave the country, and it was a very, very dangerous journey for them to undertake, and they ended up actually having to cycle some of the way out of the country. He was separated from his mother and then didn't know if he was ever going to see her again, has met up with her now, but the fate of his father and his other siblings who remained in Burundi, nobody knows what's happened to them.
Heartbreaking when you hear those personal stories. Let's hope there's a peaceful solution for Burundi soon. You've got a story here in France. Some pretty shocking statistics emerging today on homophobia. Tell us more.
Yes, absolutely. Le Monde says that homophobia has taken root here in France. They say that the tumultuous times of mass protest, both for and against gay marriage, are behind us, but that homophobia remains at a very high level here in France. They say there's an attack or an act of aggression every other day here in France. Verbal abuse, things like gays will burn in hell being said, also ranging up to physical attacks where bottles are actually smashed over people's heads. And they say the internet is a breeding ground for this kind of hate speech. And the examples they give are really, truly shocking and sickening. They give an example of an internet user who said he would kill his own child with his own hands if that child turned out to be gay. Another one said that when the real men are in power, then we'll kill the homosexuals in gas chambers. I mean, shocking.
Not the sort of attitudes
rhetoric.
you associate with modern France either.
Absolutely not. And all these figures have come from SOS Homophobie, and they look at the figures for 2014. Now, if we see this graph here, that actually shows that in 2013, when we had all of the mass protests, mariage pour tous, and the ones against gay marriage, the figures were very high in 2013. But as you see, although it's dropped in 2014, it is still higher than it's ever been before. And it's quite strange because it actually comes out on the same day as this rainbow map, which shows supposedly the most equality, emphasising countries within
Most
Europe.
tolerant countries.
Yes, exactly. Most tolerant countries. United Kingdom way out in front, 86%. But France doing very well there too, with 65%. No great surprise that Russia is down at the foot of that with just 8%.
Oh, interesting. All right. Okay. And one last story. We've heard about jewellery heists and bank jobs, but a burglary at a zoo. This is something altogether new. Tell us what happened.
Absolutely. And this is a real targeted attack. It's not a prank or anything like that. These are people who really meant business and set out to take away these animals. As Parry Match says, it's very bad news for conservation because the animals that have been taken, 7 golden lion tamarins, 10 silver marmosets, they're rare, they're endangered, they're part of a protected breeding program. But they were taken, the security systems were somehow brought down, and these animals have been taken, and the fear is that they are going to be trafficked because one of these golden lion tamarins can change hands, unscrupulous hands, for something like €10,000.
So the fear is that they've been taken out of the country, or they could be sold in France?
The police investigation is going to be focusing on have they been trafficked, because they're going to be looking at people, maybe collectors. But what the zoo is saying is that these animals don't belong with anyone other than a zoo. They have very strict dietary needs. One of the marmosets has an injury and needs treatment every day. So they really are very concerned about the fate of these animals.
Oh, very sad indeed. All right, Emma, we'll have to leave it there. Emma James, thank you very much indeed. That's it for Media Watch. Do stay with us on France 24. We're going to take a short break. More news and headlines coming up.